What's up, everybody? Professor Murph here, and I would like to talk about the fact that War Party is about to hit $30,000. It's unbelievable. So that makes me an expert, right? Apparently, I'm an expert on crowdfunding. So let's get into this. Okay, so let's be serious for a minute. Let me start off by saying no, I do not believe that I am an expert on crowdfunding. The experts are the guys making six figures and above. So if you want to know who the experts are, go take a look at what they're doing. All I can do is share with you what I've done and how it's worked for me in my campaign. Now, some of this started when I was invited on Rob Arnold's stream to talk about how War Party has basically had doubled its backer count since the campaign closed. So actually, to date, it has raised more money in demand than it did while the campaign was running. So I'm just going to go through my list of what I've found to be the top 10 most important things to having a successful crowdfunding campaign. Now, this applies only to comics, but there are certain things about it that you could probably apply to any campaign to some degree. So let's get started. Number 10, the least important, the pre-launch mailing list. Now, don't get me wrong, it's on the list, so it is important. But in my opinion and experience, it's the least important. The reason I say that is I spent about 6 months building an email list before launching. I had about 150 names on it. It wasn't too bad. To date, less than probably a third of the people on that list have actually backed the campaign. So if you think that you're going to get funding from your email list, yeah, you may if it's your second or third campaign. It's a very sort of filtered, dedicated list of backers. But on your initial launch, your first campaign especially, I would try not to be too optimistic with that. Number 9, the Perk price point. Now, I launched a campaign with pretty low price points as far as most were concerned with regards to my perks. I was charging the same amount of money you'd pay for a comic book in the stores. Now, I know that is not the norm. Most comic books in crowdfunding are priced at a premium. They're much more expensive than you would pay for the same book in the store. So that can help the campaign, obviously, because you're bringing in more money with less backers. But I did find that when you're launching a first-time campaign, once you win the confidence of the backers, you actually can get a lot of backers from charging a much more lower price point because it's more affordable. They're taking less of a risk and they're getting a lot of value for their money. And I've had backers tell me that that was a big reason why they backed it, was because of the value. They liked the book and all, but they just couldn't resist the fact that it was so cheaply priced. So having a good perk price point, I think, is important. At least in my case, it helped in the long run. Number 8, exposure. Of course, this is a big one. We all want to get on the big streams and get on the big channels, but the truth is, it's like a band playing clubs versus playing an arena. Yeah, you can play one arena and get a lot of fans and sell a lot of t-shirts and CDs, right? But you can also play a lot of small clubs, and those t-shirts and CDs you sell at the club, those add up over time. So exposure is important. You have to live stream. You have to go on as many shows as you can. Having bigger creators shout out your campaign is great. They're not going to do it for everybody, but if you can get them to do it, it really does help a lot. Number 7, interaction. This is more important than live streaming, in my opinion. Interaction means showing up in the chats, becoming part of the community, interacting with other fans and creators, not just talking about your book, your project, and just trying to shill and sell all the time. Just let people get to know you, and they can get to know you in the streams to some degree, but when you're in the chat and when you're interacting and when you're on other people's streams and you're talking it up and get to know all the people in the community out there, it really makes a difference. It helps build trust. It helps build just a rapport, and just seeing your name pop up over and over again in the chats. People need to see that. It's like advertising. Repetition is important. Most people don't buy a product based on the first time they hear about it. They buy it after they've heard about it 10, 15, 20, 30 times. And every time you pop up in a chat, you're reminding them of your product and who you are. Number 6, premium items. Now this is something I added very late in my campaign to give it an extra boost. It was about month 3 that I added the Diani action figures, the premium action figures, and I only did 5 initially, and I priced them, pretty high. They were $275 a piece, but there were only 5. They sold out in the first day. So I went back to the backers and asked them permission to offer another 5, which you should always do, because they're backing with the knowledge that there's not going to be more than 5 made. They all agreed that it was okay for me to do another 5. I did another 5. Those sold out immediately the next day. So I did one more figure, one more premium, sort of like a home run. She was a different version of the figure, different costume, different paint, and I only offered one. Sold her or offered her at $750, and she sold as well. So premium items are great because they boost your numbers, obviously, but you have to keep the quantities limited. You have to offer something that not many people are going to be able to own, and that's what makes it premium. And of course, these figures are custom painted individually, so every one is slightly different. They're not mass produced. So you're getting a one-of-a-kind item. So it really is, it is a good value. It's worth the money, but it's, it is a pricey item. But I didn't add that until my campaign had been around for a while and built some rapport and momentum and, sort of gotten enough exposure that people were aware of what War Party was. So the biggest thing I learned from this is spend your time cultivating the backers you already have rather than constantly pursuing new backers. Because the ones you already have already given you support and told you that they believe in your project. And if you offer them more perks, more value, many times they will support you. Number 5, secret perks and add-ons. Now this is something I added right before my campaign was reaching its deadline, its 60-day deadline. The perks and add-ons. Now keep in mind, my campaign, when it closed on day 30, the first 30 days, I was just barely over $6,000. That's not a huge hit by any stretch of the imagination. I extended the campaign for another 30 days. By the time it closed, I had reached almost 15 grand. And why did I get those kind of numbers on the second 30 days? Well, partly, more exposure, word got out about the product or the project, but also it was the secret perks and add-ons. But I found secret perks are great because what happens is you offer a secret perk, and I tend to do it. I did it later in the campaign before it closed, and I added another book. I added an issue 0, which would ship later than the initial issues 1 through 6. And yes, it's more work for me, but what I did was I offered it as a black and white perk, so I would not have to pay for colors on that to keep the price down. I kept the shipping price, I cut the shipping price in half, what I normally charge, so the shipping was cheap. Now it was somewhat of a premium item because I'm only printing 250 of them. So I was able to charge a little more for issue 0, but it was a backstory to my lead character. So it was a supplemental book that you did not have to enjoy issues 1 through 6, but is something that will enhance your experience of the story and the characters. So, and more than half of them sold out. So that boosted my numbers significantly before the campaign closed. Then I added another secret perk, which was a handbook, and the handbook was kind of like a guide to the universe. It had bios, it had maps, and even though I had to draw new character sheets for the bios or character poses, I was able to recycle a lot of artwork from the series in the book. So it only took me about a month to complete it, so I knocked it out in less than 30 days. Most of it was writing, backstory writing. There's a lot of text. It's not a comic book in the sense. It's more of like the Marvel Universe books were, where you had all the bios and everything. And sold about 100 of those, and that was another boost, a secret perk. Now that was added to the initial shipment, so I did not have to charge shipping. There was no shipping charge. It was $10. You get the handbook, done. Those 2 secret perks plus adding my previous published works. I've also had the advantage of having 2 books published previously that are in storage, ready to ship. Sold quite a few of those. That helped boost the numbers and help the campaign, and I shipped those all out immediately, and everyone has received them at this point, foreign and domestic. So those 3 secret perks did more than anything else, honestly, to boost my numbers right before the campaign closed, as well as in demand. Number 4, okay, we're getting to the really important things now. Platform. Now this is something I don't really have. I have a very small YouTube channel. I'm no longer on Facebook. I have a small Twitter following. Just started Twitter. Actually, after the campaign started, I opened my Twitter account. So I didn't even have a Twitter account when I launched. And I had an Instagram account, about 600 followers. So none of these platforms are particularly large, okay? Now, if I had had a larger platform, larger channel, would I have raised a lot more money? Definitely, definitely. And it's a big reason why the bigger campaigns, the more successful campaigns, the 6-figure campaigns, it's a big reason why they're so successful, because of the size of their platforms. You have to build your own platform. But my campaign is an example of how you can still overcome a small platform and have a successful campaign by utilizing all these other things. So even though my platform did not factor really that much in the success of my campaign, do I recognize its importance? Absolutely. Number 3, the title. I can't stress this enough. The title, second guess your titles, okay? There are books out there with what in my opinion, have bad titles, and I think it's hurting them. A title that doesn't give you an idea what the book's about could be a bad title. A title that's hard to pronounce is a bad title. A title that's too wordy or too long or has too many syllables can be a bad title. You want a title that has punch and impact. War Party, that's a great title, right? War Party. It rings, it has impact. It doesn't necessarily tell you what the story's about, but it gives you an idea what kind of book it is, right? An example of a terrible title for a great movie is The Shawshank Redemption, right? Great movie, but when you hear the title, The Shawshank Redemption, well, first of all, redemption sounds like some kind of preachy religious thing, and Shawshank sounds like something you'd order medium rare. It was a bad title. And the movie didn't do that well in the theater, actually. It's only after it went to cable and video that it started to develop a following, because it's such a great film. So it overcame that title, but in truth, it's really not a very good title. So the title is very important. Second guess your title. I know some campaigns out there have overcome what I would consider to be ambiguous titles, or titles that may not be as strong as they could be. So it is possible to overcome it, but I don't think it's stressed enough. A great title is vital, okay? Great title is vital. Hashtag, yeah. Coin that phrase. Number 2, concept. Okay, now we're getting down to brass tacks. When people read your log line, is the concept grabbing them? Because this is where I think campaigns lose a lot of people. Is the concept convoluted? Is it too complicated? Does it not make sense? Does it not? The reason why concept's important is because I think concept should be very simple, one sentence, and get to the point. What's the concept of War Party? A father's trying to rescue his daughter, right? It's taken with werewolves, set in the 1750s. Great, done. Boom. Sounds interesting, right? May not be interesting to everybody, but my point is it gets the point across. It's very effective. Everybody understands what it's like, or they would understand the motivations behind a parent trying to save their child. People like werewolves and monsters. That's cool. And it's set in a historical setting. Okay, nice. Something different. That's what I mean. The concept has to grab people. If your concept is kind of wishy-washy and doesn't really isn't a kind of interesting what-if scenario, then you may need to question it. Reevaluate. Is my concept interesting enough to justify the work and the money and the time that's going to go into this project? And is it something that's going to connect with people when they read it or hear about it? And now we get to number 1, and I'm sure you all know what this is, especially when it comes to comic books. It's the art. The art is the most important thing. It always will be. I know we all say story is important, and story is important. In my opinion, story is still the most important thing. But when it comes to selling something and getting people to take a chance and back your book, it's the art. If your campaign is not reaching the level of success that you want it to reach, It could be one of these other issues, but chances are, really be honest with yourself about the art. Is the art to the level that it needs to be to connect with the audience? And let me clarify. That doesn't mean quality. It could mean stylistically, right? There's a lot of great manga art out there, but if a certain backer is not into manga style, it doesn't matter how well the manga is drawn. They're not going to back it. My style is somewhat reminiscent of the 70s and 80s. It is not, it's not a style that everybody finds appealing. So I can draw it to the best of my ability and create high quality art, but ultimately, if people don't connect with that style, they still may not back the book. So it could be a matter of the art just isn't to the level of quality it needs to be. The draftsmanship is just not strong enough. Or it could be the fact that the style you're using only appeals to a certain group of people. And even though it's well drawn, it's just not everybody's cup of tea. So the art is by far always, always, always going to be the most important thing. I can't tell you how many comic books I've opened and looked at the interior and put it right back on the shelf and gave up on it because I just didn't like the art. It may not have even been badly drawn. I just didn't like the way it looked. And it's no more complicated than that. And it could have had a great story, but it didn't matter to me. So the art is the most important thing. I think it always will be. So those are my top 10 most important elements that need to be present in a crowdfunding campaign, specifically for comics. Once again, this is from my experience. Your experience might be completely different. And for some more insights on crowdfunding, definitely check out Rob Arnold's channel. He has a lot of videos on the subject, and he's always exploring new and innovative ways to improve crowdfunding and campaigns. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't backed War Party, check it out. It's about to hit 30K. Very excited and thankful to all my backers and everybody that's brought this project this far. Talk to you later.